stop looking at comparing your life to someone else's life, because they may have a nanny, they may have support, they may have someone cooking their meals. Meanwhile, you're coming home and you're doing all the things and still trying to grow up.
Right.
I
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma.
Hi, Dr. Ali. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's get right in it. I'm ready to hear everything about motherhood, background, sales. I see that you're into sales. That's something that so many of us business mamas need. So I can't wait to hear your insights on that. But let's start with your background. Tell us a bit about yourself.
By trade, I'm an audiologist and a speech language pathologist, TEDx speaker, multi bestseller for books in autism and in business. And I also, like, I'm an autism mom. So I come out here, I speak, I coach. I'm an executive business coach and sales strategist.
So you mentioned something, you're the autism mom. Talk about that journey because there are a lot of moms out there that can relate to that.
Absolutely. Zachary was around 2 years old and he was diagnosed with autism. Also, as a speech pathologist, I was able to see a lot of signs before. So, dealing with the process of going through the shame and the guilt and all the aspects of grief that happens at a time when a child is diagnosed, it helped me to really get clear on who I am and what I wanted to do. So when I created a program later on for children on the spectrum, I realized that I didn't know business, right? I knew speech pathology, I knew audiology, and at that time I knew how to engage with children on the spectrum, but I didn't know anything about business. So I did a program that Steve Harvey had called the School of Business Acceleration, to just learn more about the behind the scenes of business. And then I began to apply some of the things I I do as an autism mom to my business. So it just married the two. I wrote a book about autism and it being an amazing gift.
Yeah, I
And
saw that.
mhm,
But I want to step back for a minute because you said as a speech pathologist, you worked with children with autism as well. And even
yeah,
though you worked with kids with autism, when it hit closer to home and your son was diagnosed with autism, you still had that process of like, acceptance and grieving. I'm just curious, like with somebody who already works with that, feels it if it affects them the same way.
yeah, absolutely. Because when you are experiencing it as a parent, it's different than being a clinician. So I went to school for it. I studied it. I lived it, and I was helping other families how to navigate their child with communication with it. But when it was diagnosed to me, I'm like, wait a minute, this is too close to home. How do I handle this? Um, at that time, I would go out and service those with autism for my job, and I would come home and I'd be in tears because I didn't know what to do with him because it's a different hat that you wear, even though I'm a speech
Hmm.
pathologist or audiologist at that time. Where being mom, it's a whole different hat.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. Just
Yeah, because sometimes when you know a lot, it's like, oh my goodness, I know a lot, right? And it's like
right.
when you know too much is it's good, when you know too much is not too good sometimes. But then I leaned into the part of what I did know instead of just focusing on what I didn't know or what I knew too much of.
And I like that you took that and then you put it inside such a beautiful manuscript. And I saw you have two editions to this book.
Yeah.
Everyone should check it out. I'll link it below as well. You mentioned that you had these tools, you had this story that you wanted to tell, and you had the skills to teach other mothers how to deal with this, how to cope, and how to thrive. But then you didn't have the business aspect of it. So you said you did Steve Harvey's course, and do you believe that this gave you the skills that you needed, or was that just the beginning?
It was the beginning. So that was when I was introduced to this world of online business and digital business and marketing and branding and public relations and all these things that I thought it just just go get your LLC or just get it registered and go out there and sell, right? That's all I knew from what I saw. But there was so much that behind it. And at one point, even when I was learning, I was like, well, this is so overwhelming. I had to kind of back off. So then I invested in an individual coach, a business coach at that time, So using the material that we learned, we then apply that, which is why I always tell folks who have a business to get an individual business coach, regardless what program you're in. I think that's what really differentiated for me, taking all the general information and now applying it individually to myself. I was able to then get fine-tuned. Um, I started personal development coaching, and then I entered the Lisa Nichols space at that time, motivating the masses. And that's when I was told by my next executive business coach to write a book about my life and help other parents with what I was doing. And then we created coaching programs through that book.
You mentioned something, you're the autism mom. Talk about that journey, because there are a lot of moms out there that can relate to that. And how has that affected your journey? Was that something that inspired you to go into business? Tell us a bit more about that.
Absolutely. Zachary was around 2 years old, and he was diagnosed with autism. Also, as a speech pathologist, I was able to see a lot of signs before. So dealing with the process of going through the shame and the guilt and all the aspects of grief that happens at a time when a child is diagnosed, it helped me to really get clear on who I am and what I wanted to do. So when I created a program later on for children on the spectrum, I realized that I didn't know business, right? I knew speech pathology, I knew audiology, and at that time I knew how to engage with children on the spectrum, but I didn't know anything about business. So I did a program that Steve Harvey had called the School of Business Acceleration, to just learn more about the behind the scenes of business. And then I began to apply some of the things I I do as an autism mom to my business. So it just married the two. I wrote a book about autism and it being an amazing gift.
Yeah, I
And
saw that. Yeah, I saw that on Amazon. Wow, yes. And we can need to touch on your other book too, but we'll get to that.
mm-hmm,
But I want to step back for a minute, because you said as a speech pathologist, you worked with children with autism as well.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
even
yeah,
though you like worked with kids with autism, when it happened, like when your son, and when it hit closer to home, and your son was diagnosed with autism, it still you still had that like process of like acceptance and grieving. Because I've heard of this, but I'm just curious, like with somebody who already works with that, feels it if it affects them the same way.
yeah, absolutely. Because when you are experiencing it as a parent, it's different than being a clinician. So I went to school for it. I studied it. I lived it, and I was helping other families how to navigate their child with communication with it. But when it was diagnosed to me, I'm like, wait a minute, this is too close to home. How do I handle this? Um, and at that time, I would go out and service those with autism for my job, and I would come home and I'd be in tears because I didn't know what to do with him, because it's a different hat that you wear, even though I'm a speech
Hmm.
pathologist or audiologist at that time. Where being mom, it's a whole different hat.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. Yeah,
You know a lot. It's like, oh my goodness, I know a lot, right? And it's like
right.
when you know too much is it's good. When you know too much is not too good sometimes. But then I leaned into the part of what I did know instead of just focusing on what I didn't know or what I knew too much of.
Right. Wow. And I love it. And I like that you took that and then you put it inside such a beautiful manuscript. And I saw you have two editions to this book.
Yeah.
Everyone should check it out. I'll link it below as well. But yeah, okay. So then we talked about you mentioned that you had these tools, you had this story that you wanted to tell, and you had the skills to teach other mothers how to deal with this, how to cope, and how to thrive. But then you didn't know you weren't sure how to like package it and sell it. You didn't have the business aspect of it. So you said you did Steve Harvey's course, and do you believe that like this gave you the skills that you needed, or was that just the beginning of your?
It was the beginning. So that was when I was introduced to this world of online business and digital business and marketing and branding and public relations and all these things that I thought it just just go get your LLC or just get it registered and go out there and sell, right? That's all I knew from what I saw. But there was so much that behind it. And at one point, even when I was learning, I was like, well, this is so overwhelming. I had to kind of back off. So then I invested in an individual coach, a business coach at that time, So using the material that we learned, we then apply that, which is why I always tell folks who have a business to get an individual business coach, regardless what program you're in. I think that's what really differentiated for me, taking all the general information and now applying it individually to myself. I was able to then get fine-tuned. Um, I started personal development coaching, and then I entered the Lisa Nichols space at that time, motivating the masses. And that's when I was told by my next executive business coach to write a book about my life and help other parents with what I was doing. And then we created coaching programs through that book.
Wow, amazing. And I feel like the individual coaching, like if you can find a good coach, it could really propel your career because it can help you, first of all, as moms, like us, this it can help you save a lot of time because of course you can do everything alone and we have a lot of free resources, but you have to, like, who has the free time to just dig into all that and do all that work? And if you do, bless you, but if you can have somebody to help you expedite that process, and time is money. Well, time is even more valuable than money. So yeah, I believe that can really, and you just told me it helped you even like realize that you could put out a book and tell your story and other ways of monetizing. Yeah.
Absolutely. It saves you time. It really cuts short the information that you're getting and or the resources. If you have a really good business coach, I shifted into business coaching later as I began to do well with that business, with having the book and helping others. And then people kept asking me, well, how did you do this? How did you become a speaker? How are you traveling all over the world? How are you bringing over six figures with this book? And then that turned into, well, if I'm going to tell them how, and I didn't have to be this big business guru at that time, I literally just had to tell them what I did and how they can do it in a simplistic manner. That was everything about me, is how can you do it simple? Because as moms, an autism mom, I had enough on my plate. I had enough on my plate as being a professional. I already had my nonprofit organization, Smart Fit Fam. So here I am taking on another hat. Simple, very simple. One, two, three.
Wow. Amazing. And so what are some like what if somebody's interested in working with a business coach like you, what are some of the things that we should ask for and to look out for? Because I feel like the word business coach is so common nowadays and it sounds really broad and very vague. And as somebody who's like dipped and dabbled with different coaches and like talk to somebody in like marketing and somebody you notice that there's a difference in like in quality. So how can we, what are some questions we can ask? What are some things that we can look for to like vouch for, like, somebody who, because I agree with you, it doesn't necessarily to have to be like some big name. I feel like even you want to catch somebody before they blow up completely because then you get like you get that attention in the beginning.
First thing I would definitely say is watch them for a while, like a lot of people do for me. They watch, they check all my social media resources. They may even attend something I have. I always place a lot of free master classes or low fee master classes so you can just experience me, period, and whatever I'm teaching or giving or whatever that person is giving. Just watch them to what they're doing. So do your own research, right?
Mhm.
Then know what you need. Write down, these are the things that I need. I need one, two, three, right? You may not be able to get everything in one person, but you know the things that you need. Then you look out, now, does this person have the ability to help me with some of the things that I need? Are they displaying it? Are they speaking about it when I connect with them? Do I feel like if what the answers that they're giving me feels like it's in alignment? And then what I also tell people is get inside so you can speak to other people in their tribe. So who else have they coached? Who
Right.
else have they had a relationship with? Ask that person, can I have an example or can I have a sample of some things of what you've done so I can experience it for myself? Now you're not gonna see the maximum results as soon as you start, but once you speak to someone else and they're able to share like, hey, this is what she did when I first got here, this is where I am now. And always find out, because sometimes you'll see people at the end, right? You want to find out how was it the first year, or how was it the first 6 months while you work with her? What were you able to change? Were you able to blank and just listen? And it'll let
Yeah.
you know. But I always tell people, and then go off your gut, right? Trust your gut in the aspect. It is an investment. However, I always ask, and one of the things I do as a business coach is I like to put together plans on how you can develop back your return of investment, right? So if you invested 5K, if you invested 10K, This is how we're going to share with you how you can get this money back and how we can support you in that process.
Wow,
And get that
amazing.
money back and then some, because we always want to go past that amount.
Right. Yeah, this is what I heard someone say in sales. It's like you want to charge them like a amount, but you want to give them like, three times, even 10 times the worth of their money. So if you're helping somebody, make $1 million, you want to at least, get 10% of that. But yeah,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
all my top programs, I make sure I'm inside, right? So I'm now holding myself accountable inside of it. That's why I don't have that many folks that I do executive business coaching with. I prefer to go deep and wide, like help that individual to really get the things that they need accomplished. So I'm meeting with them and I'm actually completing with them. I'm either completing for them or I'm completing with them, so that them being a busy professional, which is who I work with a lot of busy moms or healthcare professionals, or just professionals who are caregivers that just has a lot on their plate. I try to complete some of the things that they need so that they're not still trying to get it done when they get home at the end of the night. So we're just reviewing. Okay, that goes great. Let's now move on to the next thing, because that's now complete. I like closing loops.
right, right, and not being all over the place. And I like how you said, like, ask people in that community, and that way you can get people who've already, been through it. And I
Yep.
think it can help them because sometimes, especially if you have people don't really know you and you didn't gain their that trust yet, but people like trust other people who've been through the process, and then I could think it could help them like kind of make set realistic expectations because I know the things I've been through. I'll be like, look, it's not going to be like an overnight thing. I'm just talking like from a
Exactly.
nutritionist. Like you're not going to lose weight overnight or something. It's a process, but if you're consistent and you like do the work, then you'll succeed. So it sounds like
Yep.
similar with business. But sometimes people like come over their head and have like these unrealistic expectations. But how do you help people? Because has it happened that people like they didn't get the results that they wanted in like I don't know a month, and then they come to you complaining, and you're like a month is no. Sometimes it could take years and
Mm.
more for it to be where you want to be in business.
And that happens a lot, right? Because it really is the luck of the fold, your energy, things that goes beyond. You may have all the steps to things, but your energy's off, right? Like, and it's not attracting in the money. And you may have the opportunities to speak to clients, to do conversion, yet they're saying no. And you wonder, well, why am I getting a whole bunch of no's? So then we have to work on other things. And I explain to people, it takes people 1 to 3 years, sometimes 3 to 5 years to actually begin to see
Right,
consistent results. The key of it is um, looking at areas of growth instead of always looking at things that have not worked out well, right? We're always looking over KPIs, we're looking at numbers to see what has made changes. Uh, uh, if not physical things, then how have you changed spiritually? How have you changed emotionally? How have you changed personally? Sometimes the movements are happening in other places whilst you're expecting the movement to happen only in one space. So I like to highlight other areas that we're seeing movement and then get back to the areas that we're not seeing as much movement, and now working on pivoting or working on how we can fine tune this so they can begin to see more movement in that. I give them the real deal. I'm like, not everybody's going to have those accelerate growth. And it also depends on what you put into it. Some people come in and they put a lot into it, and not just time, but they're very concentrated, they're very consistent. You could see the ones that are going to do well because they're learning the acumen of it. Than the ones who just think if I just dip in it and I just dab in it, then I'm going to see the same level of results. No,
right,
the reason I have my results is because I'm working late and I put a lot of time. And then when I take pauses, I put systems in place. And then even through those days, there's some days where not every day is a high winning day. Like people need to keep it real. Not every day is a winning day.
right. And what about mindset? I know it sounds like everybody talks about mindset. It's just you mentioned energy. And I do feel like sometimes people can say one thing with their mouth, but then they don't have you mentioned energy and they don't have the mindset. And I think other people can smell that they like, they don't have that confidence or that. So talk a little bit about that, how that affects people in business.
One of my frameworks is take a sip. All right. The first part
Mhm.
of take a sip is shift your energy. You've got to work on you first. Shift your energy, ignite your inner fire, and make power moves. I've been doing that over 10 years. That has been from my first business coach. That's what we decided. No matter what I do, that's how I help people. Now, the shifting your energy is the beginning part. Because if you are not in the right space to receive, if you're not doing your own energy work, if you're not helping yourself to feel in a space of abundance without seeing the actual fruition in front of you, then you're coming into every situation with a different level of energy. So check your energy at the door. See how you're feeling. Are you really into this? Do you really believe in what you're doing? Do you believe in what you're saying? Do you believe in this connection that you're having? Like, for example, even in our conversation today, we didn't get a chance to meet at the time that we could have met. We could have sat down and go down the world of doom. However, or we can find like, hey, we still have this amount of time. We can still get a lot done. We can still make this happen. We can still create
Right. And I'm
dynamic
enjoying this
impact.
conversation. It's like
Right.
you
So it's
just
all
go.
in your energy. Once your energy is right, then so much more can happen out of that. So I spent a lot of time with energy work. That's why I bought a house in Aruba. I help some people come
Wow.
out, take a time out of the space of the energy they're in. Sometimes you're in a really, really heavy energy space and you need to step out so you can actually start to work on developing your core again before stepping back in with the tools to activate. So
Wow. So I'm receiving that mindset, set an appropriate expectation, realizing that there's a timeline, be patient, see it through. Like, what do you think about the concept of work-life balance? That's people like that don't believe that's a thing. People believe, like, what is your take on that?
So we've learned in our tribe that balance is a myth and harmony is a myth, right? So
I'm
we learned
starting to hear that more, and I'm realizing that, yeah, I'm not crazy because I'm like, how can there be perfect balance?
and how I learned that really was from Lisa Nichols when I worked with her is because instead of us thinking that we need the same amount of time into everything for it to be able to feel the same level of success, it turned into the qualitative time you're spending with things, right? The art of being present wherever you are. Even if I only have 10 minutes for a conversation, how in depth and how present can I be in the conversation? What are my intentions of the conversation? What is my objective of the conversation? And am I doing the action towards the objective? So being clear in every situation, whether it's time with your family, time in your business, time for yourself, I do believe in having a calendar. Without a calendar, you feel super scattered. With a calendar, it helps you to know, okay, these are some core things that I need to make sure I place some time into. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, but it just has to be aware of the time. Before I start my day, create a ritual. Make sure I do my self-care first. Make sure I meditate. I do my workout. Before I used to try to do a whole hour workout in the morning because I love a whole that completely unrealistic. If I could get a whole 10-minute 10-minute meditation at a time, even though I would love a 30-minute and a 15-minute to 20-minute on the bike, I did something and I feel good about myself. So I stopped
Yes.
thinking that I needed a lengthy amount of time. We don't need a whole hour and 90 minutes to get a massive amount of impact and a message delivered. We can do it in 5 minutes. We can do it in 15 minutes. We can do it in 30 minutes. We can do it in 60 minutes. We can do it in 2 days. It's a level of what we put into and the being present and the energy that we put into it that
Yeah.
will amount to the results.
Yes, oh my gosh, I can totally relate with especially the fitness part. Like I remember like if I would have to do like a workout for an hour for it to feel like, it's doing something. Then after I had my son and started working out again, I'm like, look, if I can do a good 15-minute workout, I
Yeah.
feel good about myself. This is what I can do, but it's better than nothing. Yeah.
Yes. And then giving yourself encouragement during those short times. We've been told that short times are not good times. That longer time, like more means more time means more results. And sometimes less is more, right? It's
Yes.
really trying to see what can we get out of this short amount of time and still feel good about ourselves. I used to not think that, oh, these 15 minutes are not going to make a difference if I get on
They
the
do.
size. But they do because 5 days of 15 minutes, it's still a bit the consistency, or the fact that you started your day and you actually did something to completion. You now feel mentally more ready. You did something for yourself, so you feel good. So it's not the length amount of time, it's actually just making sure that you are there and you're present in that time.
Right. And when people, like realistically, when people block out, say, like 3 hours to do a task, it's not like they're really super uber focused those whole 3 hours. Maybe they'll get their best work done in like 20, 30 minutes in those whole 3 hours. So that's what I try to think about too. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write some content, and it's going to be a good 15 minutes. It's
Yeah.
not an hour, but at least I'm focused. I'm like focused in those 15 minutes. And sometimes I feel like I'm more intentional and I get more done if I just
Yes.
like sat down for hours and multitasking and doing a whole bunch of things at the same time.
The reason why most of my clients came to me initially is because I will say I'm that one that I still believe you can get your business to grow even if you only have 30 minutes a day, right?
Wow.
Even if you only have 30 minutes a day, you can get it to go. It may grow at different paces, but it will grow, it will move. The key of that is focus time, what you just mentioned. Making sure that you're using that time. And if you only have 30 minutes, making sure that you're present, you're getting the most out of it, you're organized, you're not stopping during those 30 minutes. It's really just time for you to just focus on that. And like you said, there's so many people that pop out of our co-creating sessions. In our group, we do 30-minute flows, CEO flows. And then they come out like, oh my gosh, I got so much done and I got this. And before we get started, I'm like, let's write down what are our intentions for this session. What are 3 objectives you'd like to get within this time? Now go. And even if they get one tick, like some may end up getting 3, depending on the level of what it is. If they get one tick, it's like, okay, at least I got that completed. That's one main thing out of my
Right.
list. Tomorrow, when I get my next 30-minute flow, I'm going to try and attack those other 2 things.
Wow. Yes, that's amazing. I'm gonna keep that in mind. Yeah, just like, and I try. That's something that I like tell myself, but it's always good to hear that, to somebody else saying you can do it. It might be at a different pace, but you'll get there. And yeah,
And that's what
everybody's
I learned.
your
That's what I
mileage
learned.
will vary.
Very true. And that's what I learned by being Zachary's mom. As an autism mom, I had to learn that his development is slower than others, right?
Mm,
It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So a lot of people come to the conclusion, oh, there's this special need or there's this thing that's happening. So because it's going to take them a long amount of time, I'm just not even going to give them I'm just going to just save it and not even put him through this, right? And I'm like, how about we just keep practicing, even if we just do a little bit every day? If we just do a little bit every day. Now, what may happen with a normal child or a quote unquote typical developing child is that you'll see a faster growth. With our kids, it takes a little longer. It takes a little bit more practice. What may take one person 1 year may take ours 2 to 3 years. I'm celebrating those 3 years later. Like, look, we did that,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So the same thing happens in business. Like, you got to give yourself grace, especially when you have a lot that you're juggling. Stop looking at comparing your life to someone else's life, because they may have a nanny, they may have support, they may have someone cooking their meals. Meanwhile, you're coming home and you're doing all the things and still trying to grow up.
Right.
I want the same level of growth that person who been home all day, or that person who had all the help, or whatever it is that they just had, just based on their life. All praises to them. No shade. My life is different. So I got to build my business. I got to create my life, design it around what works best for me, so I don't feel like if I'm in overwhelm.
Wow, beautiful. Right. Just like I like how you said it. You just need to like realize what you're like what you are able to do within the restrictions of your lifestyle. Everybody has a different life and a different schedule, and and you can do it, but it just might be in a different developmental pace. Amazing. Now, well, tell us a little bit about your businesses and where can people find you?
So, ooh, my overall business is I love to do business coaching, and I also do, and don't tell a lot of people, I do a lot of personal development behind the space. I tell a lot of people as I speak to a podcast. The gist of it is, even though I help people with the actual systems and structure in their business, and we have an academy for those who need support in a community, I understand a lot of what is also needed is a lot of spiritual and personal development work. So we also take the time out to focus on that as they're growing their business. So you can always find me at draliegriffith.com or across any of the social medias at Dr. Ali Griffith. What I love to do is help people with taking an idea or taking a concept and now taking it into fruition, like moving it to the space of actually bringing in profit and walking them through that. I have a free gift for those who are in the beginning stages or even in the middle stages and just want to know, how do I go from the launch idea, how do I go from the launched idea and the launch plan to actually launching it out and getting sales? So it's called Launch the Plan. And
I
go to
like that. Launch the plan.
launchtheplan.com. Yeah, launch a plan, launch a plan. Everybody's planning, got a whole bunch of things going on, have a whole bunch of ideas, but are we actually activating it? They walk you through the steps, how to do it super simple in a guide. You go to www.launchtheplan.com and you can have my free guide there. And that'll get you into our ecosystem. And then you'll find out all about all the other opportunities that we have in our space, whether it's coaching, whether it's our retreats, whether it's our workshops that we do, or it's just working with me one-on-one as a VIP client.
And everything is created like by you, by someone who's been through it, who's a mom, and not just a mom to a child with autism. So if you can do it, you've been through it, you're thriving in it, and I'm sure that'll inspire a lot of women who are going through the same journey right now. I know you're inspiring me right now. And
Yeah.
I saw that you have on your website, you have a summit, right? A Synergy Sales Summit. Can you tell us more about that?
So that we held in March. There is a replay access to it. It was dynamic. We're gonna run it again. So get on once you're in our system, you'll hear it again. It may be called something different, but technically it's just us getting together, synergy, right? Taking a concept and moving it into sales, which will always be, we always want to know, how do we get money? Like everybody wants to know, I have an idea, but I
Right.
need money. And if you don't, you need money to run this business, right? So you will have to have intimate conversations or have group expansive conversations that leads into money or generating revenue into your business. So we always share some of the ideas of how to get it. I would bring in different speakers or different concepts on either content marketing, how to identify yourself where you are and how to get you to where you need to go. The key of this one is doing it together, right? How can you grow your business in the synergistic space of you being aligned with yourself, and then you being aligned with your business, and then you being aligned with others who are aligned for you. So it's a synergy.
I love it. I love the name. And we have a few more minutes, and you spoke about sales, and I feel like that's something that especially women and especially mothers have a problem with. Like they find it challenging to sell. What is why do you feel like we have that like block, and why do people see sales as something bad when that's the really the only way that we can make a living and make money? Like we have to sell.
Well, we've had really bad experiences growing up or just in our world or community. And for those who are adverse to it, usually means that you'd had some sort of experience with it that where it just didn't feel good. So because it didn't feel good for you receiving it, it doesn't feel good for you
Mm,
delivering it. One of the things that I have to do is I work with shifting your mindset around it. Like you said, is understanding that this is part of being a CEO. This is part of helping people. You can shift the word of sales to service, like many people have said, knowing
right.
that you are delivering support to an individual and or group. And through there, you helping them with the support or the solution, you're providing an opportunity. Opportunities lay inside of your offer. I think opportunities and offers are the same, begin with O, right? So shifting your mindset, shifting your terminologies and how you're approaching it is the beginning space of actually doing it more often. Of course, there's systems. I have these cards, these really ridiculous
Right.
cards that I think help people with these legacy sales cards where you literally can choose one card a day. Like this one says consistency is key. And then
Mm.
it tells you set up your sales execution time, follow up is key, dial for dollars, right? So it just tells
Oh,
you to
I
set up
love that.
execution, right? And why not? Why now is the time? So just little encouragement to keep you going for those who have an adverse response towards sales because of past. In the process of being in the spaces, which is why I started doing sales. I'm not that big sales guru in terms of I love sales. I just love helping people understand that you need to do it, right? We need
Right.
to provide service. We need to collect revenue. We need to have an exchange of energy. I've learned other modalities to help people understand it. That's my speech language background, using different wording and connectivity towards it so that they can do it more and feel good with the concept of it. So shifting the mindset, igniting their inner fire with the tools, and then go out there and do it. You got to execute, make power moves.
Right, yeah. It's just, I feel like everything is bringing us back to mindset. It's something that I feel like was the theme of our conversation today. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ali. I really enjoyed this conversation with you. And I'll link everything below so that other people can find you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Maternity Leave. I hope you found value in this episode. Your support means the world. By subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing this episode with another mom entrepreneur, you'll help it grow and reach more incredible guests who can share their insights and guidance. Until next time, take care, love on your loved ones, and make it happen. You got this.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta